welcome back to Reign of the Contest. Flanks06 here, continuing this PVE tier guide series. We are now on tier S, the last tier of the PVE tier guide here. If you haven't seen any of the other ones, please go back to the D tier video. That's going to be really important because I spend a lot more time going over how I came up with the system that I'm using to determine this tier guide. It's not just what heroes I like, but it's based on a certain system that I've come up around the rules that are in the game related to overlord perks, boss phase rules, conditions. So all those types of things I've come up with this guide based on. So if you haven't seen it, please go back, watch that one first, and then go up from there. So D, C, B, A, and then now S is the last video here. So starting off just real quick for people that already know, but basically the first two perks here are when Overlord attacks, ignore all effects applied by heroes or scrolls. If any power or effect would control the boss, copy, negate, or remove one of their attacks, they take 12 damage instead. So that's the most vital information there from the Overlord perks. Going on to the boss phase turn here, we got the phase 1 rule where all temporary effects that are applied to the boss are removed, and then remove from the boss all effects applied by heroes. The boss takes 5 damage for every permanent effect removed that way. The conditions that are affected because of the Overlord rule from the earlier slide there: cursed, protected, toughened, and weakened. All right, so the S tier ranking here, determination: all ability, damage, and effects are usable in PvE, and these heroes are considered very powerful. So that's the determination there. All right, so this is it. This is the S tier. This is all the heroes from Arena of the Contest, and the last tier is Jade, Qatar, Morlo, Neri, Cedric, and Zanik. So that is pretty much it. Remember, this list doesn't include the Dragon Queen or the Emperor, as there's some rules where they're technically not supposed to be played in the campaign, and they're a little bit special. I did include Haran because there's nothing that specifically blocks him. But anyway, we are going to get started here with Jade. Jade the Bard, the only healer on this S tier list, while actually a decent healer, really her strength relies in the fact that she can buff the powers of her allies. Starting off with Inspire Greatness, 18 damage on hit, and so it's okay. But the permanent there of being able to give an ally within range one helpful condition permanently once per turn is it's incredibly powerful. So you could get Blessed, Protected, Hastened, Toughened, or Empowered. All of those are fantastic. To get depending on whatever situation. So that versatility of being able to apply that to any of your allies and what they need is just so strong. Moving on next, Requiem of Spirit. That is her healing ability here. So she's targeting an ally, 0 damage on hit. The target will regain 20 hit points, which is a decent heal there. But the better effect here is that ally, or actually, I'm sorry, an ally within range regains 1 spent special. So it doesn't even have to be the target of the ability that you're healing. So you could heal somebody and give someone else a spent special back. Is so powerful, as those specials can really amplify your damage, or maybe even the effects the other heroes that you have on your team. Moving on next here, Angelic Voice. That is her healing ability, 7 damage with a 6 heal, so it's a low amount of heal there, but this is the real crux of this one. An ally within range, this is similar to Requiem of Spirit, doesn't have to be the target, or doesn't have to be the first effect's healed target, but an ally within range is hastened, so they can move freely, and its primary attack strikes are critical hits on rolls of 17 or more. getting that increase, 15% increase to crit is just fantastic, and really good for any hero, especially any hero that can also get a bless status effect, which you could give with Inspire Greatness. Just makes it so good. And the last ability here, Heroic Melody, doing 10 damage, and then making an ally within range empowered, so you get some extra damage there, which is really good, especially for PvE. And then being able to move any number of allies within range up to 2 squares each. This is actually really vital in multiple parts of the game, where there's different quests where you need to move a lot of characters across the board to get from one place to the other. And this ability can be incredibly helpful for being able to do that. Qatar the Barbarian, while probably the most straightforward character in Arena of the Contest, he doesn't really do any super special effects or anything. What he does do is damage, and he does that very well. So Barbaric Rage, he's gaining +2 bonus to your roll. Whenever you get a bonus to your roll, that is incredibly powerful in the game, as you want to mitigate the chance that you'll miss as much as possible. So 26 damage on hit, with that brutality, he can get that 30. So that is a pretty good hit there. It's not going to be like the top tier of the game, but it is still very strong. Whirlwind up next, he is able to hit up to 2 enemies, and he can move 5 squares while he's doing that, and strike at any time, and he'll do 18 damage on hit. So just very straightforward abilities, but getting a lot of damage out there. Mighty Blows, probably the most unique skill, where basically you can choose to get a benefit to your roll, and if you do, you take a slight damage penalty of -2. If you don't, then you get just that 14 damage. Last up is Berserker Strike, where you can do 13 damage on the hit, and then move the enemy up to 2 squares, and then that person will become exposed, which is great to compare with any other hero. So Qatar, very straightforward, very simple, very good damage, but not going to do anything crazy. So he is very good for any team, because he's just doing what he does, which is damage. Morlo the Minotaur is an absolute beast out there on the battlefield, with huge damage potential and fantastic mobility. So looking here at Trample, which is probably his signature move, he gets to move 8 spaces in a single direction through enemies, so they have to be like lined up in a line, and then meanwhile you may strike the enemies through which you had moved. Each one that you hit is 16 damage, and then if you hit them, then you'll get the effect of moving them 2 squares each. So this is absolutely insane amount of damage if you can line this up right and get it in a good spot. And then even combo with maybe getting somebody in lava or spikes that are nearby. Fantastic ability. All right, Labyrinthian Fury, 25 damage on hit, so it hits incredibly hard there. And the biggest thing is you get to move the target up to 5 squares, which is just crazy far. I don't know if there's too many other characters that get to move anybody up to 5 squares. The downside of it is that you lose any of your movement points that you haven't spent, but usually you're going to kind of get into position even to do this one to begin with. Moving on to Bull Charge, which is a great ability to get into those back lines. You may move up to 4 squares in a single direction before declaring the target. You got to do 11 damage on the hit, and then if you use that benefit with the using the 4 squares, then you get +4 damage. So you're going to hit for 15 there, 19 with brutality. Just huge hit. Reckless Blow is probably it. So it's the only ability that isn't movement related, unlike his other abilities. He has a drawback of taking 3 non-lethal damage. So this occurs even if you don't actually hit this ability, which is really the biggest downside. But if you do hit, you hit for 16 damage on the hit. And then you also get to do +5 more damage to a crit if you get a critical hit. So so you'll do 10 damage instead of the normal 5. So it's absolutely crazy if you can get a critical hit. So you want to team this up with other abilities that either make him blessed or give him a better chance to crit, and he can absolutely hit like just a tornado, destroying everything in his path. Neri the Hunter is a great shooter character with better accuracy and versatility of her abilities. So looking here at her twin shot ability, she can strike the same target twice or split between 2 different targets. That's a good way to maximize your damage there, and at the same time it kind of increases your chance to make that hit there, as you'll make somebody exposed, which will give someone else on your team a better chance to actually hit. So great ability there. Explosive arrow, you get a bonus 2 to your roll. So right there, another ability where you get a better chance to hit, just really good. And then you ignore all helpful conditions on the target. Doesn't really happen too often, but that's still a good ability of 12 damage on hit. And then you get to move the target 1 square, so you can kind of reposition them either into like a lava spikes or into a different spot for that you need them at. Perfect hunt there. This is one where you got to make sure that you're getting them lined up, but you get a benefit of being able to move 4 squares before you get to make this attack, and then hit everyone in that line for 17 damage per hit. And that first target will be slowed, so that way they cannot chase you down, essentially, if you are far enough away and they need to get away from melee characters. And then rapid fire, just a versatile ability of hitting up to 3 targets, doing 13 damage per hit. So you're going to do a pretty good amount of damage here, and you get up to range 8, so you pretty much you're shooting at everything around you, as range 8 is pretty big there. So just fantastic ability there to do damage. So Neri, another character where they still need to kind of team up with some other characters that kind of help them get the bad guys in position or locked down a bit. But when she does hit, she can hit very hard. Cedric the Werewolf is also another brute character that just does massive amounts of damage, and definitely needs the support of his team to do very well, mostly because all of his abilities rely on the fact that he needs to hit a health threshold of 35 hit points or less to really be able to maximize that amount of damage. If he's above that, he's doing okay damage, but he's not really at that full potential. So you need to get him a little bit lower, but once he's in that threshold, you better watch out, because this guy is just gonna lay waste to everything around him. So you do need to kind of team him up probably with a healer or a tank character to take some shots for him. But looking at Bestial Fury, so you get to strike the target twice, doing 12 damage per hit. If you're at the 35 threshold there, the target will take an additional 12 damage. So you get that 12 plus those 2 strikes there. So you're going to do up to 36 damage with that ability. So that is just and not counting brutality, that is 40 damage. It's just absolutely insane. Then Bloodthirst there, 24 damage on hit. Then you get a permanent while you have 35. You're at that health threshold. Your strikes are critical on rolls of 17 or more, so similar to another character's abilities here, but really good, increase your chance to get critical hits. Moonlight Rage, great ability, single target. Target is exposed, 11 damage on hit. You get a plus 7 damage there, so 18 base if you're at the health threshold, and then 22 with brutality. And finally, Death Claws, range 2 ability. If you're at the health threshold, you may target 2 enemies, so you can do 24 damage on hit there, and then 28 with brutality. So that's absolutely insane primary attack that you can get there. But the key is you have to get that health threshold, which is really hard to maintain if you don't have the right support for him. Zanik, the Fire Sorcerer, would probably be one of the highest damage single target characters in the game. So he can just hit like a truck, but it's only going to be mostly on one target. He does have Fireball here that you'll see, range 8, all combatants in a 3x3 area. So similar to Arcane Blast from before, you got to place that center point, but then you do 18 damage per hit. So you can just absolutely wallop the enemy if you get multiple in there. Eternal Blaze, that's one that you want to set up early with 24 damage on hit. Permanent, you are empowered. So you're getting a +3 on every time you hit. Combine that with your accuracy there, you get basically a +7 damage on every attack that you're going to do. Going up to his primaries, range 8, Flame Blast, 13 damage on hit. It's a good strike there. And then another enemy within 2 squares of the target takes 3 damage. So that's 13 on hit, and then +3, so 16 damage in total. Last up is Inferno Shield, 12 damage on hit, and then choose an ally within range. That next ally who hits him within 2 squares of it takes 4 damage. So this is a really good one to team up with like a tank character, for example, that you know that's going to get hit by the enemy. You do that, and then you'll do some extra damage. So this is kind of a layaway ability. You got to remember to do this one, but 16 damage essentially in total there. And then 20 if you count accuracy. So Zanik, very powerful single target character, but he is just doing massive amount of damage. Okay, so that is it. This is it for our PvE tier guide. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. You'll notice that a lot of the theming of this S tier is the characters that are in here are just doing damage. They are just laying it out. There's not really a ton of crazy effects or anything super unique other than just giving them lots and lots of more damage, which really is kind of the reason that they are at this rank, is because they just do damage, and they're going to be able to take the enemies down pretty quickly, which is very valuable in PvE, as you don't want to get a lot of hits from the bad guys. You want to try to take them out, especially since you can't always negate all of those attacks, like from overlords and bosses. So that's why these characters are so powerful. But like I mentioned multiple times in this one, I want everyone to remember this throughout this entire series. I talked about how all of these other characters have their own place, and maybe they are lower in this tier ranking guide, but that's specifically because of these overlord perks and other things that kind of take away from the abilities, but it doesn't completely. Sometimes they can do some more damage with, like for example, if you have an ability where you're copying an effect or something, that will give you that plus 12 damage. So you'll get some more damage, but you're not really getting the full benefit of it, of that character. So, and that's only on those overlords and bosses, versus these guys are just going to do the damage. So, but anyway, the point is, those kind of characters are still very valuable to team up with these guys, so that way they can both maximize their potential and kind of balance each other out. You're going to have characters like Zanik, where he can just keep laying out massive amounts of damage, and have other characters that can set up and move characters around for him, get them in place. Same thing with like Morlo with his trample ability, where he needs people in a line for him. So team him up with some of those more movement based characters, and they will just do absolutely fantastic together. So anyway, that is pretty much about it. Hope this series made sense to you guys. Let me know what you think here about the S tier, and just generally about the series in general as we conclude this one. If you have any other ideas for future videos, make sure to let me know in the comments or Discord or wherever. But that is pretty much it for today. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. All that really helps me. And we'll see you at the next one.